Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob and I hope you're having a wonderful day today. Today, we're jumping into some malicious compliance. Now, if you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe to the KCC channel because I've got this wonderful plate of cookies. For each one of you that subscribes, I'll give you a cookie. And if you don't, I'm eating them all myself. Num 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 num. Our first story today comes to us from Shoeless Gamer. Recut 20 lawns because every blade of grass needs to be the same exact height. Okay, let's jump right in. The characters: my foreman, my direct boss, John; my coworker, L; our manager, our foreman's boss, Incompetent Dick. Some context. So this happened a summer ago. I'm a college student and in the summer, when I'm home, I typically work in landscaping and landscape design as a laborer. Think laying sod and bricks, building fences and decks, or cutting grass. I also live in Mississippi, so it's hot as balls and humid as hell in the summer. This particular summer, I was working on the landscaping side, so I was cutting grass, pulling weeds, upkeep sort of stuff. When it came time to cut grass, I was on weed eater duty. My job was to do trim work, basically cut grass the mower can't reach. So this Thursday was a particularly hot one, just after a good rain, and so it was excessively hot and humid. To add on to this, the job for that day was a contract place that was 20 or so houses arranged in a circle around 2 ponds and a walking path, making the humidity even higher because of the ponds and lack of airflow. Tall trees around and in the place. The lots themselves weren't particularly big, but the place took 9 to 11 hours to do well, and most of the houses also had super cranky old people in them that would complain over the most minor things. I'm talking one weed in a flower box under a bush. So we arrive at like 6:15 and get to cutting and all that good stuff. I grab my weed eater, throw my earbuds in, and do my thing. While I weed eat, I am continually walking and occasionally will bump the weed eater with my leg, raising it up a little bit and making the grass slightly uneven every so often, maybe half an inch at the most. This usually isn't noticeable, but if it happens up against a house or structure, you can tell if you look for it. So I will typically go back and try to level it out the best I can if I notice it happen. I do the whole place, front yards and backyards. We then weed the whole place front and back. We're getting ready to pack up and head home. It's like 4 o'clock by now when Incompetent Dick comes to the job site and starts looking around. He finishes up and pulls John aside and shows him around the place, then leaves. This process took an hour or so. So myself, John, and coworker have just burnt an hour on overtime doing nothing. By this point in the week, it was typical for us to be running on overtime. John comes over to coworker and I, telling us that we missed a ton of stuff and to grab the weed eaters and a bucket. We then walk around the place and John starts pointing out groups of like 4 blades of grass that are fractions of an inch higher than the others. Barely noticeable crap, like you really gotta look for this stuff hard. Furthermore, if you try to cut some of these with a weed eater, they bend from the downwash of the spinning strings, so you risk gouging a nice 5 to 12 inch circle in the grass trying to cut like 4 blades of grass. We begin to redo the whole place front and back, pulling small weeds here and there from under bushes and doing our best to cut the offending blades of grass. By the second house, coworker and I are bitching to John that we are hot and tired. It's like 5:30 and we know this will take us 2 more hours. John tells us he knows this is stupid and it's not his fault. He understands the stupidity and our pissedness. Cue malicious compliance. Coworker and I decide we are going to make sure all offending blades of grass are cut to the same height. That new height? Dirt. The thing is, if you cut grass too low, it can die. We knew this, but Incompetent Dick and the cranky old people wanted it the same height exactly, and that's what they were going to get. We re-walk the place and cut any grass that is against something and over the height of dirt. We also made sure to hold our weed eaters in a way that when we cut the offending grass, we hit the surrounding grass with the full 12-inch diameter of the weed eater, leaving a nice 12-inch circle spot that you couldn't see now, but would when the grass died in a few days. We leveled all the grass against any structure, leaving a nice gouge where walls, fences, and flower beds met the lawn. We finished around 7:30 and headed home, and didn't hear a peep the next day. The next week, the lawns had 12-inch brown circles of grass everywhere. By Tuesday, Incompetent Dick talked to John about it. John just told him the offending blades had been cut as he asked, and something along the lines of it was all now uniform in height. We couldn't help that some of the grass didn't survive the new stringent height regulations. Incompetent Dick never talked to coworker John or myself about it again. A few notes and fallout: this wasn't the first time and wouldn't be the last time Incompetent Dick came to nitpick our work at the end of a day, which would sometimes result in us having to drive across the city or walk a mile or two up a road at the end of a day to fix BS little things that weren't messed up, adding hours to an already long hot day. Though it was the last time we ever had problems at that place, we also got the satisfaction of knowing that Incompetent Dick had to take the numerous calls from cranky old people about their lawns for a few weeks. These people would cuss us out even before this incident, so I don't want to imagine what they told him. The lawn still had pretty noticeable dead spots and scars when I left towards the end of the summer. Also, Incompetent Dick saw himself as better than any of the filthy laborers, coworker and I, and would avoid critiquing us to our faces. This is primarily because the few times he nitpicked us directly, we either told him why it was stupid or handed him our equipment and told him to do it himself, which he would then proceed to F up. This was a common sentiment he held towards all of the crews under his supervision, and their reactions when he critiqued them similarly were similar to ours. In the mornings at the shop, he would sometimes talk about how we needed to be more respectful to him because he was our boss, to which people would reply something about him respecting our quality work, which it was 99% of the time, not nitpicking stupid crap, and not showing up at the end of a day to give us more dumb crap to do, such as chop a tree down and then drive off expecting us to load it up when he had an empty open-top trailer and we had a full box truck. What we did made its way to other crews and they carried out similar antics, which led to him getting a tough time from his bosses, who held him responsible for these events. The effects of this general disdain eventually got to him so much, you could see it just by the way he carried himself and the stress on his face. I've mentioned in many other videos that the only way to really be an effective manager is if you know how to do the job yourself and you've done it before. In fact, in this case, if you're telling people they need to do their job better, then you need to be one of the best people at doing that job and show them that you know how to do it so they can learn from you and do it better. Do me a quick favor, have a look down below the video. If that subscribe button's still red, it means you're not actually subscribed to the KCC channel. Please hit that subscribe button for more daily Reddit stories. Our next story today comes to us from Bata. Managers aren't allowed to tell me to use their parking space when they're off? Alright then, let's jump right in. So this happened a good 6 years ago now. I was just starting my IT career, so I was a basic level 1 desktop engineer for a large financial company. My team consisted of me, a level 2 engineer, and 3 managers, one for data, one for people, and one overall manager. Parking in town was either expensive or impossible, and while management and supervisors got parking spaces in the huge multi-story next to the office, other staff members didn't get one, and either had to pay the very expensive parking fees or park far away and walk. Being on a low entry-level salary, I opted to walk the 30 minutes into town, and often got sick due to bad weather. The level 2 guy lived a 5-minute walk from the office and didn't own a car. When any of the managers were off, they offered their parking space to me so that I wouldn't have to walk, which was very nice of them and greatly appreciated, as it was saving me money too. One day, I got called into HR because somebody saw me coming out of the multi-story and got jealous and asked why I get a space and they don't. This HR manager was incredibly condescending and talked to me like I was a literal child, with lines like, "Back when I was your age, I thought the world owed me everything too," which is absolutely not my attitude, but sure, go off on one like you know me. She said it wasn't fair on the ground level 2 guy because he might want the space too. She wouldn't listen when I said he didn't drive, and even said to me he didn't want it after I asked if he was okay with me using the space. At the end of the day, I went into the management office and we were chatting about the day as we usually did, and I told them about the HR meeting and said they weren't allowed to let me use their space anymore. The data manager then had a genius malicious compliance suggestion. She was a very selfless soul who sacrificed much of her time to help other people, and this situation rubbed her the wrong way, and she wanted to do something out of spite. She said that whenever any of them were on holiday, they'd just tell me that their parking space will be empty for the duration, not specifically that I can use it, which is what we were told not to do from HR. So the next time they were on holiday, I parked in their space, and after a few days, somebody else got jealous and tattled to HR again. I was dragged into a meeting and asked why I was still using their space. I said that I just took a chance on an empty space I found in the multi-story. They were rented, not pay and display. She went and asked the data manager when she was back in if she said I could use the space, to which she said, "No, I just said goodbye before I went on holiday for 2 weeks." HR then told her I was in her space in her absence and asked her if she wanted to raise a complaint against me. She said, "No thanks, I wasn't using it anyway." Their hands were tied, and there was nothing they could do to prevent me from using the spaces, as they're allocated privately to the individuals for use even outside of office hours and only reclaimed when they leave. This really sounds to me like an HR department that really needs something to do. Down in the comments, there was somebody who agreed with me on that one. It says, "Is HR just really bored? Do they need a puzzle or a crossword to do? Perhaps they can find Waldo and give him a written warning." Another thing from this that kind of made me go, was the fact that there were 3 managers, but only for 2 engineers. That's a little weird. Our next story today comes to us from CatLover143. Take away my overtime? Okay, let's jump right in. Hello, this sounds like a common theme, but here's my story. I was offered a crap salary and promotion to a job I was already doing, through increased responsibility by being a good employee with great job performance. I turned it down. I wasn't allowed to negotiate either, which I still did. F that rule. The counteroffer was still far less than median, which was the lowest I would go as I did a good job. It doesn't look good when employees refuse promotions, and near every manager in the company knows me. I'm the supply guy after all. So they tried taking my overtime away. They had to be gunning after my pride in performance and not wanting to be fired. To note, I live a simple life and don't care for money, but my friends in the company are in similar positions and have families and need the money. I can get another job easy enough that pays enough for me to live off of. I turned it down because it's not a lot of money to a big company and don't want to fuel mistreatment of its employees, my friends. I complied with no more overtime, but I told them I needed the overtime to do a good job. As a supply guy for a large company, I order millions of dollars of supplies throughout the year. I didn't have time to negotiate big orders anymore, HR didn't care, and my director boss didn't think I'd let my job performance drop. I started doing bare minimum within my HR provided copy and paste job description and only 8-hour days. I suck. I did the role above my job title to begin with, but they would never acknowledge this or they'd have to pay me for it. So now I was spending $20,000 plus more a month than I used to. Boss knew, but what could he do? He effed up. I'm the only person in the company with knowledge that can only be gained through experience to do the job. I'm also critical to many operations. This is small figures to a large company, and it's not like my boss in HR would tell people they messed up in my handling. He also spent the personnel budget on hiring his friend to be a director, so I heard later. So I stuck around until I had trained a replacement, since I didn't want to leave on a bad note, since my great friends I made in the company are the managers I worked with daily for years. So then I left. It'd be a bad story if this was all. When I left, a lot of people were curious why. My friends, near every manager, weren't afraid to talk as my boss wasn't their boss. Without going into detail, I'm popular in my company for lower level workers. I've saved the day a few times and do all I can to make their job easier. Due to other complaints with HR and poor pay, me leaving fueled their discontent further to a noticeable performance level. This prompted an unofficial investigation by other directors. Our COO was the likely core of the problem. He hired my boss, his friend, and had a say in the HR director's hiring. Other directors soon drove them out, as it's hard to like a job when your employees and coworkers hate you. The HR director still works there and causes problems, but she no longer has a say in pay levels. A few managers and good employees got raises. There's still a lack of base pay though, if you ask me. Overall, I like to think I had a key role to play, as I knew a few directors on a personal level. I'm back at college after dropping out the first time for medical reasons, and still talk to my friends at the company regularly. For belief, this isn't made up since I'm not entirely detached from society. This isn't your regular big company. It grew rapidly in the last 5 years, and many directors were promoted up and still busy fighting the corporate mindset takeover, from what I hear. So let me get this straight. OP is the person that spends the company money to make the company run, but they're not willing to compensate him fairly for the job that he's doing? That's pretty dumb. OP could have had a lot more fun with that one though, ordering multi-million dollars more than they needed, because, you know, they were leaving anyway. It's as easy as adding a couple of zeros onto the quantities on a purchase order. Check out all 3 OPs linked in the description down below. I thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.